hold on a minute. Oh my God, Facebook. There's comments already before I even started. Holy moly, that is the sort of reach we need, you know. And they said I wasn't a proper influencer. I mean, if any more evidence is needed, if anyone thinks that this guy right here is not a proper influencer, I got 3 comments from 3 different people on Facebook. Actually, no, it's not Facebook. It's on YouTube. Oh my God. I've got 3 comments on YouTube before I've started. I can't believe that. I don't believe that, because it goes, wow. My God. Right. What do we got? Amy Jade. Yay, finally get an early finish so I can watch a live. It's a live, Amy. I hope I don't let you down. This is a live. This is happening. Sophia is clapping her hands, I think. Is that a hand clap or a shake or something? Amy back. Oh my God, YouTube's gone mad. I mean, this is my break, I think. What's the date? 6th of July. Mark it in your diaries. Today's the day. Look at that. YouTube's just gone mental. Hello, everyone. Good to finally make one of these on time. Amy, and that's a different Amy to the other Amy. We've got 2 Amys who are happy to be here. Jess is happy to be here. Hello. Yeah, Donatella, big up yourself, Donna. Nice to see you here tonight. I called you Donna. That's quite good, isn't it, Donna? You're not a Donna, are you? No, you're not a Donna. It's like, anyway, yeah. Dee, hi, Jonathan. Is it possible to move the breast crease? Straight in with a question there. Dee is not messing about. None of this, hello, nice to be here. Dee, that's what we need. Come on, straight in. Is it possible to move the breast crease? D, yes. It is possible to move the breast crease. In fact, it is often necessary to move the breast crease because the breast crease, when you're doing a breast augment, I don't know what the context is, D, so I'm just going to go ahead and make up a context, but feel free to tell me if I've got the wrong context. So if you have putting breast implants in, the crease is often a bit too high with your breast when your breast is smaller. When your breast is bigger, then if you kept the crease in the same place, then the implant will be sitting too high and the nipple will look like it's sitting too low and the geometry of the breast wouldn't be good. So often in patients with small breasts, you actually need to lower that crease to give the geometry of the breast better balance and to make sure the nipple is centered on the breast / on the implant. And one of the problems or one of the complications of breast augmentation is malposition in terms of the implant not sitting right, and that means the implant can sit high with the nipple looking low and it looking odd, or the implant can descend low and you get so-called bottoming out where the implant's sitting too low and then the nipple is looking like it's sitting too high. So both are not good, and so therefore you have to make sure you get the crease in the right place. But actually moving the crease is part of doing a breast augmentation and is often necessary when you're doing surgery. Amy, you've made it to official influencer. Is that right, Amy? So what is that it? I need 4 or 5 comments on in YouTube when I'm there. So D, sorry, no, I'm not. Rare I get on here, so straight in. Oh, you know what? So yeah, no, get straight in, D. Get straight in. So yeah, that's a good name. Slim with Bex on 1-to-1 diet. You have a name like that? Well, obviously you can have a name like that because that is your name. Hi, can I ask what type of tummy tuck you do, please? With drains or without? Brazilian? ? Well, I do different types of tummy tuck, and there are different types of tummy tuck Slim with Bex. And the different types of tummy tuck will normally refer to how much skin is removed. So you've got a mini tummy tuck, you've got a full tummy tuck, fleur-de-lis, circumferential. Those are the main ones. Now, what you're referring to is a full tummy tuck. And then within a full tummy tuck, there are different nuances on how you do the full tummy tuck with and without drains and the Brazilian tummy tuck. I've got to be honest with you, Slim with Bex on 1-to-1 diet. I'm not convinced that there's that much difference, you know, Brazilian, what they call a Brazilian tummy tuck and a, I don't know what you want to call it, a normal full tummy tuck. And I did a blog post about this. And after I did my blog post on it, the blog post was basically saying, I don't think there's much difference. I've got loads of people inquiring wanting a Brazilian tummy tuck. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I should call mine a Brazilian tummy tuck. Now, I do use drains, and that is one of the things that they talk about with the Brazilian tummy tuck, and there are a lot of people who don't use drains when they do a tummy tuck. Now, any time that you find that there's a sort of difference of opinion, as long as it's not like one person on their own doing something and everyone else is doing something else, but a lot of times, particularly in plastic surgery, there'll be some people who do one thing and some people do another thing, and it might be that one person will say, "This is the best way of doing it," and then another person doesn't do it that way, and you think, well, what's going on there? And anytime there's lots of different ways of doing it, to be quite honest with you, Slim with Bex, that means there's no best way of doing it. Because if there was a best way of doing it, we'd all do it. If drains were best, we'd all use them. If not drains were the best, none of us would use them. So I'm not saying drains are the best. I can see the benefit of not using drains, no question about it. And the main benefit of not using drains is that patients don't like drains, fact. And we are definitely moving away from drains in general in plastic surgery. And I am moving away from using drains in plastic surgery. There's only a handful of operations I still use drains in. You know, breast implants, I never use drains. Breast lifts, I never use drains. Many breast reductions, I don't use drains, only for bigger breast reductions, tummy tucks, capsulectomies. Those are the only real operations that I still do use drains. So there's a few operations I still do use drains. So I can definitely see the benefit of not using a drain in terms of patient discomfort, in terms of getting up and about, and you don't have these tubes connected to you, etc. The reason I still use drains in tummy tuck is because I worry about mainly seroma, not so much hematoma. Hematoma is blood collecting inside, which can happen the day of the surgery. And to be quite honest with you, that can happen whether or not you use drains. But the main reason I use it is because of seroma, because there's a sort of dead space there when you do a tummy tuck. There's a space underneath the skin where you pulled that skin down. And the drains that I use are suction drains. So they suck that skin together and they help it to stick down. And I think that's useful in the first day or two. Usually the first day, to be honest with you, you only have the drains usually in one night. The drains come out the next day. And I think that's useful having that suction there. Now, there are other things people do. People use the glue. They can spray glue in there and get the glue to stick down. I worry that in recovery, you cough, you move, you get a bit of shear, and that glue might not stick so well. The other thing that people are doing is quilting the space down, and I do also quilt the space down, and I have found that's reduced the drainage. And it may be that quilting will replace the need for draining their patients, but at the moment I'm quilting and putting drain in. So that is one thing that's different with the Brazilian one. And the other thing that's different, but to be honest with you, from a patient point of view, it's not going to make a result different, really. And you can't tell that's the one with drain, that's the one without drain. When you look at a post-op result, it's more for the, you know, it's for the risk profile. And people who don't use drains say they get very low seroma rates, so they can justify not using drains. Now, the way I justify it is that my seroma rate is almost zero. I'm not going to say zero because I did have a seroma a few years ago, but it's very rare to get a seroma. But you know, it's not very common at all. So even if your seroma rate is sort of 0.8%, or I don't know what a normal seroma rate is, you know, mine is still, you know, lower than that. So so that's why I do use them. The other thing about a Brazilian tummy tuck is people do talk about doing liposuction to the upper skin flap, to the upper abdomen, which I don't do because I worry about the vascularity. Now, it's very rarely required because the upper skin flap is pulled down, so the skin from your rib cage to your belly button is pulled down and stretched. So even if you have got a bit of fullness there and you think, oh, a little bit of lipo there, you very rarely need it because it gets pulled down. Now, if you do need it, and particularly if you've got an extra roll of skin there and a lot of fullness up there, then you might need another procedure to have that addressed. In my hands, whereas some people who do some liposuction there could argue that that would get rid of that. Now, the reason I don't do liposuction there is because I worry about the vascularity of the skin, which might impede the wound healing and make you an increased risk of having problems with healing. So it's always a balance. There's good and bad about doing that liposuction. But again, I think it's not going to make a dramatic difference to most people. And therefore, I don't think personally that you will be able to tell and say this person's had a Brazilian tummy tuck, this person's not, simply because of the liposuction to the upper abdomen and the drains. The other things that they talk about with the Brazilian tummy tuck, limited undermining centrally, liposuction to the hips and flanks is standard with I think a modern day tummy tuck. We all do that, so I don't think that's particularly new with a Brazilian or different with a Brazilian. So So I don't know what to call mine. I'll call mine a modified Brazilian, but I just called it a full tummy tuck, to be honest with you, because these things also, I don't think will make a huge difference to patients, which is what it's about. You want to get as good a result as you can get. And I think we're all trying to give patients the best result possible. Those people who are promoting the Brazilian tummy tuck, those people who are not, but we're both trying to do the best result we can and give you the good result. So I would say, a bit like the implant thing, choose your surgeon. Spend time researching and choosing your surgeon. Don't worry too much about the nuances of whether they use drains or not, and whether they're going to do lipo to the upper abdomen or not. Choose someone who you think is going to give you a good result, who's getting good results, and that is the most important thing. So what's happened here? Slim with Bex. I will check out your blog. Thank you. Yes, it's called something like the Brazilian. It's got Brazilian tummy tuck in the title. I can't remember what it is. Anyway, you should be able to find it. Louise, how long after uplift with implants surgery can you drive? I'm going to say at least a year. Oh God, end term, isn't it? Oh look, JJ Staiano is joined. Oh, embarrassing. God, family members joined. Oh God. Keep it together, Jay. Keep it together. Professional. Got to think like the pros, yeah? I mean, the pros on TV and stuff, they don't think family members are watching. They just go for it. Where was I? Driving after a lift with implants. Louise, the answer to your question is, I'm going to say a couple of weeks. 2 to 3, maybe 2. See how you feel. You've got to check with your car insurance company, check there's not a certain amount of time. They might say it's up to the doctor, in which case you could always talk to Vicky. She'll talk to you about the healing and stuff like that. And yeah, 2 weeks. The first week you feel a bit rough. It's, you know, second week you should be, 2 weeks should be all right. Slim with Bex on one-to-one diet. Do you use general anesthetic? Yes, I do. Slim with Bex. Yep, I do use general anesthetic. And for tummy tucks, I still use general anesthetic for tummy tucks. And I know you can do local sedation with tummy tucks, but for me, it's just a bit pushing the boundaries. But I know people are doing it and getting good results, and I have done it and had good results. To be fair, I didn't, you know, it was fine when I did it, but I still would default back to a general anesthetic for that. Amy on YouTube, it's lovely to see. I mean, what's happened to you? What have I done to make YouTube? I'm loving it. I'm loving it, Amy. Hashtag, I mean, she's even using the hashtag AskJJ. What more? Oh my God, Jane's asked a question on Instagram. Do you know what I was thinking of doing tonight? I don't know what you think about this. Clubhouse. Any views on Clubhouse? Do you know what that is? It's like an audio platform. I don't know. Can I do it while doing an Instagram live on my phone? Can I record somehow a Clubhouse at the same time? Anyone know that sort of stuff? I don't really. A lot of people talk about Clubhouse, but I don't really know much about it. Anyway, Amy, hashtag AskJJ. Ideally like to come to you for a BA, researching local surgeons in Norfolk first. Do you recommend any? If I don't click with one, I'm coming to you. Loved your book and have shared with friends. Oh, Amy, thank you. Get them to write to me and I'll give them send them a copy. Yes, I do know good surgeons in Norfolk because I was in Cambridge for a short period of time, which is sort of linked with Norfolk. And Richard is a great surgeon. What was Richard's surname? Richard Hayward is a fantastic surgeon and a lovely, lovely guy. A good friend of mine, and he's a lovely guy in Norfolk, and he does breast surgery. And I can not recommend him more highly because he's a really, really nice guy. So Richard Hayward is your man. Norfolk is a lovely, beautiful place to live, but blinking miles from anywhere. It takes ages to get here. So yeah, Amy, go and check out Richard Hayward because he's a living legend in the breast surgery and does a lot of breast reconstruction. Very good, very talented surgeon and a good friend of mine. So give him my love if you see him. Dee, what other procedures would you do for the fullness in the upper tummy if no lipo? So very rarely, I can think of one that I did year or two ago. I did some lipo up here after the tummy tuck, but very rarely need to do anything, D. So the two things you're going to need to do, if anything, is liposuction if it's just a bit of extra fat, or if it's a massive weight loss patient who's literally got rolls of skin below their breast, then you're looking into the realms of reverse abdominoplasty, which is something people talk about a lot. They talk a lot about reverse abdominoplasties. Hardly anyone needs a reverse abdominoplasty. It's a massive weight loss patient with literal rolls underneath their breast, in the upper abdomen, rolls of extra skin, and then you do an incision, sort of like the horizontal incision for a breast reduction, but it meets in the middle. So it's equivalent of the tummy, but a tummy tuck, but at the top. So usually it's liposuction, or you could look at all those other non-surgical types of liposuction, the freezing and the radio frequency and the heating and the goodness knows what sort of ones. They might be something you could look at if there is a bit of fullness up there, or weight loss might help those bits. Right, I'm going to go over now because people are talking on Instagram, which is I'm not going to ignore you, Instagram. I am not. Jane Thorne D, how do you get rid of lines around the mouth? XXX. I'm desperate. Oh, Jane, don't be desperate. Shall I grow a beard like yours so then no one will see them? Jane, are you implying that I've grown a beard to hide my lines around my mouth? Huh? Hey? No, don't grow a beard, Jane. So I got a full disclosure. I don't do facial plastic surgery, but in order to get rid of lines around the mouth, you could consider filler. Filler might be good for that, or if there's some deep lines and creases, or maybe some kind of resurfacing. So resurfacing sort of basically takes the top layer of the skin off. So if there's sort of lines and wrinkles like that, take the top layer of the skin off and it smooths the skin a bit. Various ways of resurfacing, basically burning the skin in some way. This is why I don't do it, because I'm not selling it very well, am I? But you basically burn the skin, whether it's with acid or with laser or you dermabrasion. You rub the top layer of the skin. Somehow you destroy the top layer of the skin. And that would be resurfacing. If there's lots of fine lines, if there's deeper lines, then you could consider filler. I don't do either of those procedures, so probably better speaking to someone. I just grow a beard, but yeah, filler or resurfacing would be my thing, and it's really a cosmetic doctor. So a lot of plastic surgeons do it, and there's lots of doctors who do it, sort of cosmetic doctor type people who do it. I don't know where you are, where you're based. Claire Oliver is someone who I know quite well. She's down in Headley and Arden. She does a lot of this sort of non-surgical world stuff. And, there are some people who sort of really specialize in that and go into all the, the nuances of all the facial and aesthetics and stuff. And so I sort of leave it to them rather than dabbling in that. I just stick with the surgery. I'm a surgical guy. If you've got a surgical thing, I'm all yours. If you've got like a non-surgical thing, Botox fillers and stuff, I'm like, I'm surgery really. It's my niche. What is going on here? Thank you. Really, where are we up to? Don't click with one. What other procedures? Done it. Thank you. Amy Jade. Do you have a long waiting list at the moment? I don't know, Amy. I think they were talking about this the other day. I'm going to say August for consultations, maybe. Where are we now? June, July, August. Well, that's only next month. Maybe long. That doesn't sound very good, does it? Maybe what's the month after August? September. Maybe September. Yeah, so that's not long, is it? That's for consultations. Surgery. You know what, Amy? I'm making this up. I don't know. It depends what it is, Amy. If you want local anaesthetic sort of stuff in the clinic, obviously that's, well, maybe not obviously, but that's quicker. But for general anaesthetic cases, a couple of months maybe. I don't think it's that. It's certainly getting more lists. And the problem is, Amy, they phoned us today. I was going to say yesterday, and said, we've got some lists for July, really short notice. So they are phoning us with short notice lists, but it's great they're doing that. But it's hard to fill short notice lists because I think people want a bit of notice. But it is great that we're getting some lists back with the hospitals. So it is really good. Slim with Bex. I'm in Norfolk too. Does Richard do tummy tuck too? Yeah, of course he does. I'm sure he does, because he's like me. He did breast reconstruction using the tummy. So we take a big bit of the tummy and reconstruct the breast with it. So-called DIEP flaps. I don't know if you've heard of that, but we're that's when you do a DIEP flap, you're basically doing a tummy tuck. So yeah, he definitely does tummies as well. And as I say, he's a highly recommended guy. And if you're in Norfolk, you should look no further. Amy Lawson, thank you so much. We'll check him out and pass on your love. Please pass on my gratitude to your receptionist. One called me last week and she was absolutely lovely and down to earth. Look at that. That's a sort of endorsement we need. Do you have to lose weight before surgery? Yes, Jess, you do, my friend. You do have to lose weight before surgery because you don't want to lose weight after surgery, basically. 2 reasons, Jess. One reason, because your risk of complications will be less at a lower weight. They normally talk about a BMI of 30. It's sort of normally bandied about as being the complication thing. If you've got a BMI above 30, you've got a higher risk of complications. Lower than 30, lower risk of complications. However, it is a spectrum. It's not like suddenly the switch is flicked at 30. But the other thing, Jess, is that you are going to get a better result if you get your weight down first. I don't know what surgery you're thinking of, but it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. Most surgery involves body reshaping. And if you lose weight after surgery, that can have an effect on your body. You might have some spare skin if you have a tummy tuck or if you have some kind of breast procedure and you lose weight afterwards, you could get a bit of a droop to your breast, you could have a bit of a hang to your tummy, and we could have made it tighter if you'd lost weight first. So that's really important. So even if your BMI is below 30, if you want to lose weight, I'd always say to people, lose weight first before having surgery, because you're going to get a better result. You're going to have a lower risk of complications and you're going to get a better result. So yes, you should ideally lose weight before surgery. Sally Wilson-Storey is saying, do you charge for consultations? Sally, that's one of my questions tonight. So you've gone into one of my questions. So thank you for that. So the question was, why do we not offer free consultations? Well, we don't offer free consultations, Sally, as such. And I'll tell you why, because we used to offer free consultations. And I think there is something to be said for free consultations. And I've done a blog post about that as well, Sally, going back in the day a bit, that is. So I think there is something to be said for free consultations. And the reason I think there's something to be said for free consultations, 2 reasons. One is because a lot of people do it. And so therefore it's hard to compete. If loads of people are offering free consultations and we're saying, look, we want loads of money for consultations, then obviously we're at risk of maybe, not seeing people that we would have perhaps liked to have seen. And 2 is because I always say to people, shop around, look for your surgeon, make sure you've got a rapport, etc., etc. And so if you've got to pay hundreds of pounds to go meet the guy, and then you don't get a rapport, or you shop around and you meet another guy who's better or better rapport, then you sort of feel like you could waste quite a lot of money or spend quite a lot of money on those consultations. So I completely accept that there's an argument for it. Now, the 2 reasons we don't offer it, Sally, is because we are quite busy at the moment and we are struggling to get people in anyway. So I think that would be even worse with free consultations. I think I would struggle to give people the time. And the other reason is you do get a lot of DNAs. You do get a lot of people not turning up when you do free consultations. So in order to answer the questions and to combat that, there's 2 things I say to people. Number 1 thing is every Tuesday night I'm here. I'm doing this every Tuesday night. So if you don't want to pay for a consultation and if you've got a question or something you want to talk about, come on here at Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, totally free, gratis. I'm here and I will answer your questions and we can go over whatever you want to go over. So that's the first thing. But the other thing I say to people, we don't really make the money on the consultations. We make the money on the surgery, which is why a lot of people offer free consultations, because it's not like another specialty. If you're a skin doctor or a cardiologist or a respiratory physician or something like that, you might make a lot of your money from the consultations because you don't really make much money from the procedures, whereas we make our money really from the procedures. So I always say to people, if we haven't been helpful, if it hasn't really been what you hoped for, if we don't gel, we don't connect, you think that was a load of rubbish, he doesn't know what he's on about, I wanted those implants, he says he can't do them, whatever, we will refund your consultation. No quibble, no questions, no, you don't have to prove anything. We'll just give you back your consultation, because I don't want people to feel they're not getting value for money. I do feel that I do give value for money in the consultations, but if you feel that, you know what, that was not really what I was hoping, then we completely refund the consultation, no problem at all. So in that respect, I guess you could say it was a free consultation. But I completely understand it's not really a free one in terms of you don't have to, a free one, I guess you don't have to pay for. This one you pay for, but you can always get your money back if we can't help you. So that is where we are on the free consultation question, Sally. So I hope I've explained that, justified that. Amy Jade, okay, I see, not too bad then. I'm still unsure what I'm wanting / needing. I want a lift for sure, but we'll come and talk about what would be best for me. Yes, Amy. Yes. Yeah, well, Amy, I always say there's two things with your breast, shape and size. And if it's shape, then a lift is the best way to do it. If it's size, then implants. But in fact, if they're too small, then it's implants. If they're too big, then it's reduction. So if it's shape, then yeah, a lift will probably be the way to go. If you're happy with the size, then I probably wouldn't mess with implants. However, you could think of a reduction if they're big, but happy to talk about it with you in real life, Amy. And Jane says, thank you. You're the best. Thank you, Jane. Very kind of you. Right, I've got some questions here. I'm going to get into my questions here. So number one question is here. I want larger breasts, but don't want breast implants. How does fat grafting work? Well, fat grafting works by sucking fat out of one area and inject it into the other area. And it sounds great. And it is great. Now, you don't literally, well, you do literally, I guess. You don't, literally is not the right word. You don't actually just suck the fat out and inject it straight in. You have to process the fat before you inject it back in again. So it is quite a long procedure because you have to process that fat, and you're not really doing liposuction, although you are sucking fat. So I guess it is liposuction, but it's not in the same way as doing normal liposuction, which is on a high pressure, you're sucking loads of fat out. So you don't particularly contour the area where you're taking the fat from. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to have a smaller bum or better shaped hips or something. It is quite subtle where you take the fat from, because you're taking it out low volumes under low pressure. And one of the limitations of fat grafting is that it is quite subtle because it is quite small volumes. So I always warn people, I always try and prepare them that it is quite subtle and it probably is not going to be a cup size. So therefore you often have to repeat it. So that is something to consider. So for me, it's not quite there yet for a predictable, significant increase in breast volume, but it is a thing for sure. And it's really good for sort of mild asymmetries, maybe just to build one breast up a bit, or maybe some contour irregularities. It might be helpful. People got that visible rippling with implants. It might be helpful to get a bit of fat over the top, but it's not a great way to augment the breast. It's quite subtle, it's quite expensive, and it often needs to be repeated. But it's a lovely procedure. I love doing it. What is the scarring like for mixed heritage on areolar reduction? Right. Well, the scarring for areolar reduction in general is quite puckered up. It goes round your areola and it's quite puckered up because you're putting a big circle into a small circle. But I think this is getting at risks of hypertrophic or keloid scarring. And that is obviously something we worry about for anyone. It's increased common in darker skins. So your darker skin, you've got an increased risk of hypertrophic or keloid scarring. Now, it's really central here, shoulders and central is where the risk of hypertrophic or keloid scarring. Round the areola is not a high risk area for keloid scarring. So it's not a high probability of going keloid, but it is something to be taken into the mix. Now, we would always ask you if you've had other scars, and if they've been good, then great. If they have gone keloid, then we worry. And if you've got a family history of keloid scarring, if you've got a family history of keloid scarring, or you've got other scars on your body that have gone keloid, then I would worry about having any sort of surgery, particularly something like a cosmetic procedure, like an areolar reduction, because we could cure one cosmetic problem and give you a different cosmetic problem. However, if you haven't got a history of keloid or hypertrophic scarring in yourself or in your family, just because you are darker skin, I don't think that would necessarily be something that you should not have the surgery for, although obviously the scarring itself is something to consider, whether you're happy to take on that scarring because it is on the front of the breast, and you'd have to bring it into the mix, but it's not a huge risk for this sort of surgery. Why do we not offer free consultations? Well, if you want to know, ask Sally, because I told Sally a minute ago why we don't offer free consultations. Is liposuction a quicker recovery compared to a TT? Yeah, of course it is. Massive. Yeah, liposuction is a much quicker recovery compared to a TT. TT, for viewers, is tummy tuck. So a tummy tuck's a big long scar in the lower abdomen, as well as usually one scar around the belly button for a full tummy tuck. But a tummy tuck is a scar, basically, and a scar that needs to heal. And it can take a long time for that scar to heal and to settle, etc. Liposuction is tiny little stab incisions. I mean, now there is no question recovery with liposuction. It's quite bruised, quite swollen. You might get contour irregularities, dents, bumps, bulges. So it does take months to recover from liposuction, no question, in terms of getting your full result. But while you're recovering, it's just a bit bruised and swollen, and the scars are tiny. Whereas with a tummy tuck, you're bent over, you've got a big wound to heal with risk of wound healing infections, etc., etc. So there's a significantly increased risk of problems and just generally a longer recovery. It's going to knock you back more than liposuction. It's a longer operation. Tummy tuck takes about 3 hours. Liposuction on its own would just be about an hour and a half or so. The only problem is liposuction in my hands is really good on the hips and the flanks, on the side bits. It's not good on the central abdomen. That's the problem. So for the central abdomen, a tummy tuck is the best way to contour it, because you actually remove the skin of the central abdomen. So tummy tuck is better. Amy Jade in on YouTube: might sound daft, but what's the difference in reduction and lift? Do you still lift the nipple? That is not daft, Amy Jade. A reduction and a lift are a similar procedure. They're basically the same procedure, a reduction and a lift. That's why my frequently asked question guide is a frequently asked questions about reduction stroke lifts, because they're the same procedure. The marking is the same. The only difference is that the some breast tissue is removed when you do a reduction, whereas only skin is removed when you're doing a lift. And so when you do a reduction, you have to isolate the nipple. You don't take the nipple off. You still lift the nipple in the same way, but you actually isolate the nipple on a stalk of tissue with a reduction, whereas a lift, you just sort of release the tissues and release the tissues around the nipple to help it to move up higher up into the chest. So you do exactly the same markings, and you move the nipple in exactly the same way, although you are taking tissue from around the nipple when you're doing a reduction. Therefore, a reduction is more expensive. We send tissue away, so that's got to be looked at for histology. It's increased risk of problems with the vascularity, the nerve supply to the nipple, and it's just basically a bigger operation, a reduction, than a mastopexy. So it is a more expensive operation, but the technicalities of doing it are quite similar. The scarring, etc., is quite similar. So that's not a daft question. It's a good question, that one, Amy Jade. Thank you very much for that. Do we offer Symmastia surgery? So this is a question from a patient today, and when she asked the question, I immediately thought she had breast implants and had Symmastia. So if you want to know what Symmastia is, what are you saying? You want to know what Symmastia is? Well, I'll tell you what Symmastia is, because I got a photo, right? Can you see that? I've got a photo. Let's put it on Facebook. So Symmastia is usually, I've got to be honest with you, full disclosure, I've got these photos off the internet, so I have done research prior to the question. So this is Symmastia. So it's a web between the breasts, and it's usually following breast augmentation. So and it's because the pockets have been over dissected, and so the two pockets of the breast implants actually join each other and form a web between the breasts. I don't know, you probably can't put my arrow, but anyway, it's a web between the breasts and a uniboob, people call it. It's unsightly, and it can be if the implants are too wide and the pockets over dissected immediately. Very difficult problem to correct, but it is possible to try and correct it. You probably have to downsize implants. Great indication for polyurethane foam implants, because they're less likely to migrate in that pocket. Sometimes we need to use meshes or something to support that implant medially, so it doesn't fall into the pocket and go into the other side. But it is extremely difficult problem to correct, and I don't want to sound unhelpful, but if this happens, the best thing is to not get it happening in the first place. But that's not very helpful, is it? But it is extremely difficult problem to fix. Now, having said that, the patient who inquired today, she hasn't let me show her photos, at least last time I looked. So I'm going to show photos of someone else with Symmastia, had not had surgery. So this patient had not had surgery. Choose a different asset. So this patient had not had surgery, and had congenital Symmastia. So her breasts were just naturally built that way. The breast tissue went across into the middle and joined in the middle. Again, this is a stock photo, but it is, and this is more of a problem because this is actually breast tissue joining in the middle. So this is a difficult problem to fix because she's actually got breast tissue joining in the middle, and so we have to somehow import tissue and get into the valley, get to the depths of the valley there to fix that. So that's extremely difficult to do something about. And to the extent that I would say it's not, I think it would be beyond me to fix that, to fix a congenital, or you're born with your breasts that they're meeting in the middle. Sometimes people having a breast reduction have it naturally, and I always point it out to them and say, look, it will still be there, but it's extremely difficult. It would involve making flaps of tissue and trying to import some tissue so that you get a nice crisp definition between the breasts, and that would mean scarring into the fold, which is an unsightly place for the scarring. And so very difficult if you've got Symmastia that you're born with, a web between your breasts that you're born with. So I think that would be a no, or it was a no today. That patient, I don't feel that we could help. I spoke to Kurum, actually. Kurum was in the clinic with me today, and I said to him, what do you think? Have you got anything for that? And, you know, there are things that can be done, but it's just difficult surgery. It's scarring. It's just going to probably make it look worse than what it looks now. As I say, for Symmastia following breast augmentation, that's still difficult, but it's certainly more straightforward than Symmastia congenital that someone's actually born with. Scar removal. Now, this is a good question. And again, I asked the patient if we could send the photos, and she hasn't. Oh, so he hasn't got back to us. So I'm not going to show you his photo, but I'll describe it. Basically, he's a man with a follicular challenge, like myself, with a scar on his head. So he's got a completely shaved head, and he's got a scar on his head. Here, a little bit thick, a little bit pigmented, a little bit brown. Now, the thing I always say to people for scar removal, no one can remove the scar. To my, I think one of my web pages says scar removal is the name of the web page, but you know, you can't remove a scar. All we can do as surgeons is create new scar. So if you want a scar removed, no one can remove it for you. All we can do is change the scar. So the thing that I say to people, if they have got a scar, is what's the problem with the scar? Now, if it's just the fact that I've got a scar and I don't like the look of it, tricky. If there's a problem with the scar, then we might be able to help. Now, the problems would be dented in, bumped up, raised, red, stretched wider than we liked, in a bad line, in a bad orientation, you know, somewhere on the scar across the face going that way, whereas the creases might be going the other way. So in an unfavorable orientation, you know, there are some things that we might be able to change. We might be able to change the orientation of it, might make it less stretched, less bumpy, less dented. Those sorts of things we might be able to help with, less red. So those sort of things we might be able to help with. But if there's not a specific problem with the scar, and it's just the fact you've got a scar, there's nothing really surgical we can offer. And I go back to the non-surgical things now. They do things, these derma rollers, and goodness knows what they do to try and improve the appearance of scars. But certainly surgically, there has to be a specific problem with the scar in order for us to help with it. So this one was just a scar on the scalp. I'm like, well, that's just what it is. You know, it's a scar on the scalp, and unfortunately he's lost his hair, so it's become obvious. And yeah, so we can only help scars when they've a specific problem. So last question here. This question says removal of dog ear. So this is a patient who has had a brachioplasty several years ago, and she had a brachioplasty. So we returned from brachioplasty surgery several years ago. Would you consider doing dog ears plus a little tightening of the skin in the elbow area? The skin on my arms has become a little lax with age, and the issue is coming from this end of the original surgery. So in effect, you're really neatening it up for me as well. so that I could wear sleeveless tops again without feeling self-conscious. So yeah, so this person is talking about dog ear removal. Now, dog ears are little bumps at the end of the scar, and whenever you remove tissue, you get a dog ear. So anytime you remove tissue, you get a bump. Now we try and make the dog ear as short as possible, as small as possible. The smaller the dog ear, the way you make a smaller dog ear is you make the scar longer. Now the problem with brachioplasty is an arm going down to the elbow, and we try always not to cross the elbow when we do the surgery. Now I haven't done this surgery. It's not bad. It's not a bad dog ear. Not that I'm trying to make out this bad, but just to say I haven't done this op. And I would say always go best to go back to your original consultation. And I think we have the original surgeon. I think we have suggested that. But anyway, I'm happy to talk about it. So yeah, so the scar goes down to the elbow. So in order to make a smaller dog ear, you make a longer scar. So if you want to have the dog ear removed, then you could remove this dog ear because it is a little bump, but it's only a tiny little bump. But I would aim just get rid of that little tiny little bump, make the tired scar tiny little bit longer. Now aiming not to go past the elbow, and just take a little bit of fat out from that area to try and move the contour in that area. It's tricky because there's always a risk you get another dog ear, smaller one, but another dog ear, and the dog ear will be further down your arm. So you can end up chasing dog ears. So you've got to get to a stage where you sort of quit, basically. There's quite a few photos of this, and this is probably the best photo I could get of it. It's quite hard to see in photos, which means it's not sort of obvious, although it obviously bothers this patient. The other thing they've said is, would it include a small amount of liposuction if needs be? I'm very keen on any recommendations of skin tightening of my arms, quite frankly. Now, this is a different story. So there's one thing which is removal of dog ears, which is trying to get the contour a little better just at that end bit. But the other thing, if you start talking about skin tightening, do I need a bit of liposuction? So that's a completely different story. And one of the reasons people need a brachioplasty, need an arm reduction, is because they've usually because they've lost weight, and the skin has been stretched and not recoiled. So there is already a problem with the laxity of the skin. The skin is quite lax. Now, when we do a brachioplasty, we make it as tight as we possibly can, but the skin that's left behind will also not be as tight as it was before you lost the weight. So your skin has been stretched, and your skin has not got as much laxity as it used to have. And actually, if the contour looks all right, but you just feel the skin is lax, we can't do anything to make that better. Liposuction won't help. Liposuction will take fat out, but it looks like the contour's all right. In fact, if anything, too much has been taken out, which has accentuated the dog ear. So I don't think you need liposuction. Skin tightening is a different thing. Now, there are things that report to cause some degree of skin tightening, things like radio frequency. These are external things that are put on your arm, and this goes back to the cosmetic doctor type people. Not sure whether Claire Oliver does that sort of thing down in Helion Arden. I'm trying to think of someone around me who might do some kind of type of skin tightening, but you know, there are cosmetic doctors, aesthetic practitioners, they call them what you will, but they do often talk about these machines that you can get, and I've seen and we've trialed these machines with radio frequency, etc., to cause a degree of skin tightening. But the problem is, the bottom line is really hard to give that skin back its elasticity, because aging and having been stretched by the weight loss has caused the problem. And so it's really, so what I would say to you is the skin quality of the skin, certainly if I just remove the dog ear, there'll be no difference to the quality of the skin of your arm, no difference to the laxity of that skin. It'll be what it is now. I can't give you back tightness to that skin, certainly not by removing the dog ear, and certainly not by doing some liposuction. That is not going to give you any tightness back in that skin of your arm. It is just the fact that that skin has been stretched, and it is the same skin that was there before, but obviously there's less of it because you've had the brachioplasty. So yes, you could get rid of that tiny little dog ear at the end. It would extend the scar. Try and avoid going past the elbow. You don't really want to go past the elbow, but it will be quite a marginal improvement. And so you've got to be careful getting your expectations here. It would just literally be removing that little bump that you can see on the photo here, and it would not be doing any significant skin tightening for the rest of your arm. So Jade is in with a question. Stop sharing. Amy Jade, you've been a legend tonight, if you don't mind me saying. Still losing my weight, but can't wait till I'm at a point of booking in with you. Thank you. Ask JJ. Okay, ask KJ. I mean, you can't have everything. I do ask for the Ask JJ tag. I'm going to take Ask KJ. I don't know if there's another influencer out there called KJ who is benefiting from that that use of that tag, but that hashtag, yeah. But Amy, you showed willing with trying, and I do notice looking at the stream, you have used the appropriate Ask JJ tag higher up. So you can ask KJ, see what his opinion on is. But this guy is JJ, but you know, what the heck. So yes, good on you with the weight loss, Amy. Keep up the good work, and you will, as I say, get a better result when you're at your right weight, when you're at your ideal, comfortable and stable with your weight. You have to be those two things, comfortable and stable with your weight. It's really important. Ideally BMI less than 30 if you can. There we go. Ask JJ, get the numbers in. Well done. Thank you for that. Right. I have got reason to believe I'm out of questions. Yes, I am. I'm out of questions. Wow, that was intense. Next week, I am on holiday. So Costa del Cornwall. And so I will... Have they got internet down there? They've probably not got internet down there. I can joke about it because I used to live there, all right? I'm from Fulhamite. Used to live in Fulhamite. And so, yeah, we'll be in Cornwall. I think the hashtag gets lost on YouTube live chat, unfortunately. Does it? Thanks, Amy. Yeah, I've got to be honest with you, Amy. I don't know what I'm doing. Just between you and me. I don't think there's anyone else here. I don't know what I'm doing with the hashtag. I don't know if it makes any difference whatsoever. I keep on going on about using hashtag AskJJ. I've completely made that up myself, whether that is beneficial or not. Do people not do that any? I don't really. I'm not really up with the kids. I shouldn't say that because I'm now going to get loads of people on Instagram sending me messages saying, "Do I want more followers?" and you know, whatever, and offering to help me with my social media. But anyway, should I stop saying use the hashtag AskJJ, Amy? I don't know. I like it. I don't know if it makes any difference whatsoever, but hey ho. Yeah, so holiday next week, but a week after. Oh God, actually, you know what? I think we're going in a yurt the week after. So it's a two center holiday. So I'm not sure if I'll be here the week after, actually, although we have said if the kids complain so much they don't want to be in the yurt, I might come home with some of them and my wife might stay. Anyway, I might not be here for 2 weeks, guys. Don't shoot the messenger, all right? Are you going to be okay? Ask your questions, save them up, because I'll definitely be here in 3 weeks, whenever the heck that is. I may or may not be here. What's your Instagram? My Instagram, Jess, is the Staiano Clinic, I think. At the Staiano Clinic, I think. I'm going to type it in. We try to be consistent at the Staiano Clinic. Is my YouTube not that as well? Have I just posted something or not? No. Oh, I did. I think it is. Jess, if it's not, message me again and I'll look. I don't know how to look what it is, but I think anyway. So I will be here definitely in 2 weeks. Anyway, three weeks. You know, or would it be? Well, 2 weeks. So if I say I'm here in 1 week, yeah, three weeks. Anyway, I'm away for 2 weeks. But save up your questions because I'll be here in 3 weeks' time. I might be here in 1, 2. You know. Oh God. Anyway, I don't think I should need to dwell on this because I don't really think you are that interested. But anyway, Jackie, thank you. Have a lovely holiday. Thank you, Jackie. Very nice of you to say so, Jackie. I think it's fair to say it's my biggest fan, and always there, beginning and end, Jackie. So thank you for that. And yeah, it is good. It is that. So good. Oh look, I can show that Instagram thing. Look at that. That's good, isn't it? Oh, look at that. That looks good, doesn't it? Oh, that looks good. I like the way that looks. Yeah, that looks good. I'm getting lots of hearts on Instagram. Thank you. Right, I am going to check out. You crack me up. Thank you very much, Amy. That's kind. Right, I'm just going to put that back on just for your delectation. And I will be here in several weeks' time. to be specified. I'll try and do a post. I'll try and do a post in there earlier on the day to say I'm coming on, but obviously busy man, and you know, might be watching telly or doing something else. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to check myself out of here. Love you big time. YouTube, massive thank you to both Amy's. We had two Amy's. We had Jess. Thank you, Jess. Have a lovely holiday. Thank you. Massive thank you on YouTube. We had Slim with Bex, Jackie always, and all my other Instagram fans. Thank you. And let's not forget the original Facebook. Thank you all. So see you in a few weeks' time. Wish me luck. I hope the weather's good, and I'll be back at some unspecified time. See you whenever, Amy. Yeah, see you whenever. Checking out of here.